I'm going to show you how easy it is to make your own homemade Pop-Tarts. Okay, you can do this by hand or you can do it in a food processor, which I have right here. If you do it by hand, you just need to use a pastry blender or a fork instead. And it's just going to take a few minutes longer. We're going to go ahead and add 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. And hopefully without spilling it everywhere. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup plus a tablespoon of sugar. I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of cinnamon. You can lessen the amount of cinnamon if you'd like. And the salt is a 1/2 teaspoon because I'm using salted butter because I don't have unsalted butter. So if you're using unsalted butter, go ahead and include a full teaspoon of salt. So we're gonna go ahead and give this a pulse just to get this blended up. Next, we have 2 cubes of, I have salted butter. Like I said, you can use unsalted if you want. Just add the extra 1/2 teaspoon of salt into your flour mixture. So you want to cube this up and it needs to be very, very cold. I went ahead and after I cut this up, because it got a little warm, I went ahead and put this bowl into the freezer for a few minutes. So let's go ahead and get this in there. We just want to blend this enough so that it turns into kind of a sandy mixture. We do not want to overmix this or else we will lose the flakiness of the crust. We're just making a pie crust essentially. So you can use any pie crust if you don't want to actually make a pie crust. You can use a store-bought pie crust if you prefer. Go ahead and get that set on there and we're just going to go and pulse a few times. I can't find the top to my food processor, so I have to use my hand to cover it. Okay, let's see how this is looking. Oh, just a few more times. Okay, right there is good. Stop right there, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the water. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got my cold water. This is a 1/4 cup plus 3 tablespoons of cold water. And I also have a 1/2 teaspoon of honey in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pulse this, and I'm going to just drizzle this water and honey mixture in as I pulse it. The honey didn't quite come out, so I'm just going to put a little bit more in there. That should be good. Okay, so this is what it should look like. And this is it. You don't want to mess with it anymore after this. This is the texture it should be. It should look kind of like sand. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get my area prepared because we're going to go ahead and form this into a ball. Okay, now I've got my food processor out of the way and I'm going to go ahead and lightly flour my board just so that the dough won't stick. And I'm going to go ahead and just dump this entire thing out onto the board. And you really want to be gentle with this dough. We're just going to bring it together. We're not trying to smash it. We want to keep those little chunks of butter within the flour. That's what makes it so nice and flaky. This is how you would handle any other pie crust. So just make sure that we do this. And we're just going to go ahead and shape it into a circle. And we're just bringing it together. I don't even really want to fold this too much. It's going to get folded some more after it comes out of the refrigerator. This is a much healthier option than buying Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts are loaded with a lot of things that you can't even read. And they also have a lot of high fructose corn syrup. So that's why I like to make things homemade, especially a lot of typical store-bought snacks, because at least I know what's inside of it. Okay, so that's about all we're gonna do right there. Looks pretty good. Like I said, when it comes out of the refrigerator, we're gonna be rolling this out, so it does not have to look perfect right now. Just kind of get it into a nice diameter. That way it's a little bit easier to roll out as opposed to just making it into a ball. And that's that. We're gonna go ahead and grab the saran wrap, or if you have reusable plastic wrap, you can use that, however you wish to do it, but it does need to be covered completely. It needs to be sealed in completely. So don't just set it in a bowl covered. It really needs to be wrapped up. You may need a spatula to get it off your board. Okay, there it goes. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get this nice and sealed. Okay, that's it. That's all we need to do. Now it's going to go into the refrigerator for 30 minutes to an hour, and I'll come back, we'll roll it out, and I'll show you the next steps to getting these made. Okay, now that we have our dough refrigerated and out of the refrigerator, we want to let this set out for a little bit to come to almost room temperature. I actually left mine out a little too long, so I may actually need to go put this back in the refrigerator if it's not rolling out properly. We're going to roll this out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. And you want to make sure and flour your surface really well before you put this down. Get plenty of flour on there. Get a little flour on your rolling pin, and we're just going to start rolling this out. And we're going to roll this into a rectangle. If it tears, that's okay. Like I said, I think I left this out for too long, but I think I can make this work. And if you don't want to make your own dough, you can actually just use a store-bought pie dough for this recipe. I like to try out different pie dough recipes. I actually got this one from handletheheat.com. I'm not real sure I like the rest of the recipe for the Pop-Tart recipe they had, but I wanted to try out the dough just to try something new. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a perfect rectangle out of this because I left, like I said, don't leave it out for too long. You do want it to be kind of chilled before you go roll this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this rolled out and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got this rolled out. It looks pretty good. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a perfect rectangle. If you can, that's fine. But just make sure that you can lift it. That's the most important thing. And you can just test that by taking your rolling pin and rolling it on the rolling pin. If you can't do that, you're going to need to pick it up and start over. Ideally, you don't want to have to start over because it does mess with the results of the dough a little bit, but that's okay. You can start over if you have to. So now I'm going to cut this into a rectangle, or as best I can. We just want to make some squares because we're making our version of Pop-Tarts. So just go ahead and I am going to take the excess dough and I'm going to re-roll it when I'm done. So I'm just going to trim off the edges right here. I'm going to try and use as much of this as I can so that I don't have to re-roll too much of it, because we don't want to toughen the flour up too much because we're not trying to make bread. We don't want the gluten to form too much. But that's okay. And you can use a knife or a bench scraper, whatever you'd like. Make sure they're kind of even. We can always fix them a little bit later. I'm just going to set my excess dough to the side. I think I've made this a little uneven, but that's all right. Like I said, we can fix it. Okay. Most importantly, we want to make sure that the thickness is about the same. And it feels pretty good. I'm just going to dust a little more flour on the top. Make sure we can pick it up. Yep, we're good. And then now we're going to take this and we're going to cut rectangles out of it. So I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do about one. Actually, cut it down the middle. Just kind of eyeball it. I think the regular Pop-Tarts are approximately 3 by 4 inches, if I remember right. These are going to come out a little, actually they're going to be a little bit smaller than the original ones. They're going to, you know, look a little different. But once again, that's okay. I'm trying to decide if I want to make 3 small ones on each end. I think that's what I'll do. See, right there and right there, like that. And then I'm going to re-roll the excess dough that I didn't use. Okay, so we have 12 squares here. So we're going to have 6 Pop-Tarts, and they're all moving around really nicely. This is perfect. And if you don't want to re-roll this dough, you don't have to, or you could make something else if you want. Like I said, if you don't want to use dough, you can just use a store-bought pie crust. Make sure that you have a fork. I must have lost my fork. You're going to want a fork so that you can crimp the edges. And we need a little bit of water. We're going to need to make sure to moisten the sides of them so that they can stick together. So now we're going to transfer 6 of these onto our parchment paper. And then the other 6 will be for the top. Okay, so we have that. I'm going to go ahead and just get water all along the sides. And then I made my own compote, you can use store-bought jam if you'd like, or you can make your own blueberry or strawberry, whatever flavor you like for filling. You could also do a brown sugar mixture in this, where you take brown sugar and a little bit of butter and maybe a teaspoon or two of cinnamon. I would do about, I don't know, a half a cup of brown sugar, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and about a tablespoon of melted butter. Mix it up, and that would be your filling. And we're just going to go ahead and make sure all the edges are nice and wet so that we can seal them. So this is how my blueberry compote came out. I did about a cup and a half of frozen blueberries and two tablespoons of sugar. And I actually could have lessened the amount of sugar on this because it came out pretty sweet. So, but this is why I like to make this stuff on my own, because you can control the amount of sugar that you're using in these. So we're just going to do about a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. We don't want too much because we don't want it popping out. So just a little dollop in the middle is good. Hopefully I made enough of this. And you, when you make the blueberry compote, you want to just take the blueberries, rinse them off. I always rinse off my frozen vegetables and fruits. So it's just a thing I do. So I would just rinse them off in a colander, put them in a saucepan, in a medium-sized saucepan. Maybe add a splash of water, but I wouldn't add that much because if they're frozen, there's already a lot of water content in them. And then you're going to cook it over medium-low heat for about 5 minutes. You want to reduce the water and the sugar until it looks like this. You don't want a lot of syrup and water because otherwise it's going to leak out of these, and you don't want that. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll just use up the rest of this. I'll have to make some more filling for the other ones that I'm going to make with the leftover dough. Okay, that's that. So we're going to go ahead and put our tops on. Just like that. Okay, our tops are on. Now we're going to take a fork and we're going to just crimp the edges down. Uh-oh, a little bit leaked out. That's okay though. I'm going to go ahead and continue to crimp these, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got them all crimped. They're all pressed together. If your fork starts to get stuck while you're doing the crimping of the edges, dip your fork in some flour. The other really important thing is you need to poke holes at the top. Just one prick of the fork will do. You need to allow some room for steam to escape so that they don't blow up. Okay, the last step that we need to do before we put them in the oven is we need an egg wash. This is 1 egg with about a tablespoon of water, and this is going to make them brown up really nice. You're going to have a nice golden brown top with this. So don't skip this step, otherwise they're just not as pretty, and it does give a nice crunch to the top of it. It makes a big difference, so don't skip this. Just go ahead and get that egg wash all over the sides, the top, everywhere. These are really, really easy to make. And this is something really fun you could do with the kids. And they're just so much healthier than store-bought Pop-Tarts. I make a lot of our snacks homemade. Most of the things I make are homemade because it's just I just like to be able to know the ingredients I'm using. If I can't read the ingredients, then I have a problem with it. And there's a lot of food dyes and stuff that I just prefer not to have in our diet that are in this stuff. I also, we don't use corn syrup, and I really don't like high fructose corn syrup in particular. So this just makes it a lot healthier. Make sure you get every part brushed. Okay, that's it. We're done. We're going to go ahead and get these into the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to bake these for about 25 to 30 minutes, and I'll be back to show you the rest of the process. Okay, now that they're out of the oven, and we've let them completely cool, this is what they look like. And you want to make sure you let them cool the entire way before you put any icing on them. You could just leave them like this, though they're great like this as well. Or you could make an icing. I used a half a cup of powdered sugar and a half a teaspoon of vanilla and 3 teaspoons of milk for this frosting. You could drizzle that on or spread it all over the top. You can use sugar sprinkles or rainbow sprinkles, whatever you have. Or like I said, you could just leave it plain. Another thing that you could do is put some coarse sugar on here, like some turbinado sugar, and that would be great. But I'm going to go ahead and ice these. So I'm just going to do a thin layer of icing on the top. And then I'm going to do some sprinkles, because I have a 6-year-old who loves sprinkles, and she's almost home from school. So we're just going to try to get all of this coated evenly. And you could use different frosting recipes for this if you'd like. There's a lot of good options out there. This is just a very simple one. Oh, and if you don't have powdered sugar, you can definitely go, if you have a coffee grinder or a really good food processor, you can just grind up sugar in it, which is what I had to do today. There's one. I'll do one with some purple sprinkles. Leave that one plain. And for the rest of them, I'm just going to leave those plain. So here we are. This is the final result. And go ahead and wait until these dry before you serve them. Let's go ahead and cut one of these open. And that's what it looks like in the middle. Nice flaky crust, great filling. Can't beat it. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone has a good day. And if you want more content like this, please subscribe, like, and share. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Is it good? Yeah? Hmm?
There's one right here.
You're gonna have to get your own.
You can't get sprinkles, okay? You want this one?
Let me try this one.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it.
Wow, these are really good. They're crunchy.